instead of Bashar.
Yes.
And last night when I was back in my room flipping through the TV channels, I came across an episode of Cops, something I don't normally watch.
Cops.
But, yes.
All right.
And so as they were going to commercial, this particular one said, the title said, Cops, Bizarre Calls.
Yes.
So
So you had a very bizarre day yesterday.
I had a very bizarre day, very much.
All
and
right.
I'm having a fabulous time, and I just wanted to share that with you. And thank you very much.
Well,
for
thank you.
all of this fabulous information that is
Thank you for generating your own
assisting me greatly.
synchronicities as well.
Thank you, Bashar. I got it right that time.
And you got it left.
One more.
All right.
Hey, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
Good day. Yesterday we were talking about beliefs and emotions, and,
Yes.
and then a separate subject of motivation.
Yes.
And on the way here this morning, and actually also yesterday morning, as I was driving to get here, and April was expecting me, and I was running late, and the faster I'd try to go, the later I would get, and I was getting angry.
So the more you ran, the more you stayed in the same place.
But not only that,
All
yes,
right.
not only that, the anger that came up because I was trying so hard and I didn't
Yes.
want to disappoint her. And
Yes.
the anger that came up was compelling me in a sense. The anger was in control.
Yes.
And drivers I was cussing at drivers.
Oh,
and
all right.
you know,
How exciting.
Okay, all this stuff. So maybe for you, but not for them. So on the
Well, you
way-
don't know that for a fact, but go on.
Well, yeah, you're right. But this morning it was very interesting because after taking that information in from yesterday,
Yes.
I went, okay, where did I choose to
Oh, you mean you
operate?
paused?
I did.
Oh, thank
I
you.
paused. Thank you, and thank you for reminding me that I paused.
Yes.
I paused and I went, okay, where did I choose to operate in this manner?
All
Where
right.
did I choose to go into
Yes.
this anger? And I asked myself the question, and then maybe 5 minutes later, what came up was that when I was in the womb, I had a twin, and the twin died, and it was
All right.
an extremely traumatic experience that I've done a lot of work with, a lot of layers there.
All right.
And what I got in touch with was my choice as she was dying, and I was sure that I was going to go with her.
All right.
That I decided and made a strong choice, and I hope I don't cry here because
You can cry if you wish.
I made a strong choice to get really, really angry, to call forth all the anger that I could in myself to stay alive.
All right.
And there was this thought in myself: if I can feel the anger, I'm still alive.
All
and
right.
therefore, from moment to moment, I can, in a sense, push myself forward and be alive.
Very creative.
Yeah, it was creative, except
Except
I mean,
now
it
you're
works.
getting tired of it.
Exactly. So
Because I
went,
think by now you've probably caught on to the fact that you're alive.
yeah, I'm continuing. But here's the question: as she and me made that decision,
Yes.
and is directly motivated, is directly around the motivation for moving forward in life as well, and because
Yes.
I've noticed the pattern
Yes.
very deeply ingrained in myself.
All right. Very good.
And so as I realized that, I went, God, that's where my determination is so strong in life, is from her in
right.
that choice. And I thanked her
For propelling you
for
forward
propelling
in
me
life.
and for saved, in a sense, who knows, maybe she saved my life.
You were both a classic example of a physics experiment. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. So for her, going back into spirit, it pushed you that much harder forward into physical reality.
Interesting. Interesting.
Two eternally connected particles spinning off in two directions, always connected no matter how far apart, because space and time are an illusion. So you are exhibiting the idea of quantum connectedness with your twin.
Oh wow, that clears up a lot on that. Woo. Now here's the final. Here's the question.
Yes.
That was a very strong decision with a lot of power behind it on her part.
Yes.
And it
in
has,
essence, she actually kicked you into physical reality.
My prenatal self, you're saying, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. So, and I explained to her on the drive here that determination is very powerful and very wonderful and does not have to be motivated by anger. That you know, here's
Excuse
an opportunity.
me.
Yeah.
I don't mean to interrupt you, and I know it doesn't show in the channel's body, but I and several others are laughing very strongly right now. Because you said you explained it to her. In actual fact, she explained it to you. But it came through your mouth as a reflection of the fact that you realized it was being explained to you, and so you explained it back. So she could make sure you got it.
Oh, so she's like being that reflection until I get it, right?
Yes.
She's being that as the service, not as a dummy.
Yes.
God, who's the dummy here? It's really
And who's the ventriloquist?
This is great. This is great. Great. Where's Jenny? We used to have these monkeys that hung around your neck, and we thought that we were the ventriloquists, but they were really powerful beings. These monkeys. Okay, here's the question about shifting this energy now.
Oh, I want to tell you a secret now.
Okay.
You referred to the idea of these monkey puppets that you've hung around your neck.
Yes.
And using your imagination that they are actually living beings capable of talking. And here is the classic secret of the idea of ventriloquism and a ventriloquist's dummy. In many cases, obviously, those things are actually devices and tools that allow your higher self to say things that you as a person in your reality would never dare to say.
Right.
But they actually are saying things that often are really coming from not only your higher self, but your guides, other spirit friends, and so forth.
And they had this cute little face, and people would just light up like a Christmas tree.
Because it comes in a format they can accept, because in your terminology, it's non-threatening and they can trust it.
Yes. It was
because it doesn't have an agenda.
Right. Just sharing love.
Yes.
Just sharing love. Which brings me to the question of now this energy that has been deeply patterned, and now I'm seeing it, understanding it, and going, okay,
and now you understand that if you're seeing the pattern, you don't have it anymore?
I understand that you said that yesterday. I haven't
All right. Well, let that be a beginning.
Yes.
Do you understand the principle? It's similar to the idea of the forest for the trees saying that you have on your planet. Mm-hmm. For you to actually see the forest, you have to be standing outside of it.
Right.
Otherwise, you don't see it as a forest. You only see the trees. If you see it as a pattern, you don't have it anymore. You have to be beyond the pattern to recognize it as a pattern.
Okay, but here's the rub.
Oh, the rub. All right.
Rub. I've seen it as a pattern for quite some time, but
yes.
I had not gotten down to this moment in time where I saw that I could deal with it in this part of that, in a different way.
Yes.
And we're talking about motivation. And the motivation is my real question, because that's even, in a sense, more important, is changing the motivation rather from anger motivated, which I'm this wonderful spirit, but don't cross me because I'm going to get violently angry if you get in my way.
Ooh. Ooh, you are so scary.
And it's been a pattern that I've struggled with for a long, long time. So it's very
That's
important
because you believe it serves you. When you understand that's the motivation for hanging on to it, and you realize that you don't need that to serve you, but that something else can serve you even more strongly, you will change the motivation automatically and let the old idea go. The motivation is not the anger. The motivation is what you believe the anger is doing for you.
Helping me survive.
Yes. Now that you've got a handle on surviving, You don't need the anger in that sense to allow you to continue to survive. You're beginning to recognize that you need to feed yourself something more nourishing.
Absolutely.
In order to survive. And now you're starting to recognize what that nourishment is, and that it's love and not anger.
Right.
The
Right.
anger in that sense is your justification for being, and you needed that to justify the idea of maintaining your existence in physical reality. But now, as you say, it's old hat.
Yes.
So now you're recognizing that you're wearing that out and that your motivation needs to be recalibrated. And the motivation then needs to be attached to the idea that something else actually sustains you more fully.
Yes.
And that is the idea of love.
Yes.
Self-love, expressions of love, however you wish to phrase it. Creativity, excitement, joy.
Absolutely. Yes.
So you are making that shift.
Okay. So then just by then you're saying to more and more change that.
By the way, it is no
Reinforce it.
accident that you had this revelation while driving your car, because it's a sign that you need to shift gears.
Right. And the vehicle of my moving forward and
very
moving
good.
around. It's absolutely.
And that if you do shift gears and understand that you're in a different vehicle, then you will be on a freer way to move. And there will be no traffic in that sense.
Thank you very much.
No jam. You understand?
Yes, I do.
Maybe jelly, but no jam.
Yes, I do. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now then, let us move forward with the discussion and a deeper explanation of the oversoul idea and the soul blueprint idea, as was brought up yesterday of your time with regard to familial relations and how that keys into your soul blueprint pattern. You can look at the chart that was created that has the all that is, oversoul, and individual soul, and the 4 quadrants of ideas and themes that make up the concept of your soul blueprint pattern. Now, of course, yesterday we talked about the idea of the pie chart and how all of the different energies that you have brought with you on your journey from different systems, different lives, and so forth, create this pie chart that has different degrees of different vibrations making it up, even though you all contain the same basic energies. It's in different proportions according to what you are connecting to, what you're focusing on, what serves you best in this particular lifetime. But now, you can also see that what you're bringing to bear, more specifically within all this, are things that have to do with familial, family, soul group relationships, ideas of so-called agreements that you may be making, in some senses such as we actually just examined, because the idea of the twin, where one dies and one lives, is a perfect representation of a soul agreement within a soul family. The idea being that I will ensure that you will be firmly anchored in this physical reality in the way that will serve you best for the theme that you're going to explore, by kicking you into this reality, by moving out of it myself and giving you all the momentum. That's a soul agreement between a soul family group member and another. Many different kinds of agreements are made in this way to be of service and assistance to one another, to provide for the other what the other may need to experience in that life, what it is they need to experience, so that they can best serve out their theme of choice. And it is done many different ways. But this is definitely one of the things that is included in the overall patterns, so to speak, of your soul blueprint, are these soul family agreements. And they are very personal in that sense, in that you have true familiarity with many of these other souls, individual souls, and have had many different kinds of life experiences, speaking linearly, and have played many different parts, different literal family members sometimes being each other's spouses, sometimes being children, brothers, sisters, friends, other relations, mentors, students. You have all, at this point, done it all. in that context on earth. You've all played all the roles, and now you're playing the role where all the roles come together and are integrated in a manner that allows you to be of best assistance in serving the theme of being on earth in its primary transition phase, from one level of reality to another, from third density to fourth density transition. That's the general theme you're all playing out, even though obviously you have your own individual themes as part and parcel of helping in the overall transitional theme. Because each and every one of you that becomes more aware of your soul family group agreements, the themes you have chosen to experience in this life, and the more aware you become of how to allow yourself to express those things fully through following your joy and being the fullest self you possibly can be, it adds to the overall momentum and the overall energy of Earth's capability to transition in a positive and harmonious way for those that will ride that wave. So, also you can see in that chart the idea of what might be referred to as random acts. Now, this does not mean accidents. There is no such thing as an accident. But it does mean random act in the sense that you have freedom to choose. There are many probabilities that you could choose from in order to decide how to experience your theme at any given moment. And we have used the analogy of walking down a hallway to describe or illustrate the concept of living out a theme. In other words, you may decide that a certain hallway is what you will walk down in life, and that may not change and may seem in some senses like destiny, but it's very loosely described as a theme. But how you walk down that hallway is up to your free will, your freedom to choose. The idea of random probabilities that you could attract to yourself to express the idea of your theme in a number of different kinds of situations and conditions and interactions and relationships. So random acts still plays a very big part in the idea of how you play out your soul blueprint. You leave yourself open, in other words, for the possibility of doing it in any number of different ways. And that allows there to be the variety that is the spice of life, as you say. The acknowledgement of true uniqueness and difference in all of you, in living out your similar themes in a variety, such a variety of different ways that it adds to the complexity and richness of all that is in terms of all the ways it can experience itself going through even one particular kind of transitional theme. So random acts are very important to allow there to be seemingly an open-endedness to the ability and how it is you experience the idea of your soul blueprint. Again, it isn't accidental. No more so than the idea of what you call, let's say, gambling on your planet. If you spin a wheel and are looking to place money on a certain number, you understand that the way that the numbers come up may be random, but it's no accident that the wheel is spinning because you spun it. So that's a way to look at the idea of randomness and understand that it has nothing to do with the concept of accident in the sense that these two things really have no connection or have nothing to do with each other. There is no such thing. It's all an orchestration, but the orchestration may be hidden so that you can experience in the act of creation the true moment of creation and the randomness of it, the savoring of the randomness of that true moment of creation. The mechanism of creation itself is brought about by the very concept of randomness. And so you include that also in your soul blueprint, that you can express yourself in any number of ways and still accomplish the same theme. Now, in the family groups and in all the other things that are on that chart, again, it really just has to do with understanding that when you choose to experience physical reality, you do sort of crystallize yourself into a personality construct. And that personality construct acts as a translation device through which the amalgamation of all of this soul blueprint energy and energy from the source is expressed. And in expressing it through that prism of the personality, the three-sided personality of definitions and emotions and behavior, in expressing itself through that, it determines exactly what kind of a spectrum in life that you see, what kind of an experience that you have. And this takes us back to the reality generation circuit. So again, these charts are designed, all of them are designed as actual meditational tools so that you can focus your consciousness, focus your imagination on the configuration that is outlined in these charts. Not that it needs to be infinitely explained in every detail, but that you yourself, using your imagination when you focus on them, when you read them, when you look at their layout, when you look at their configuration, when you look at what the symbols might mean to you in terms of the meaning you have given them, they can, in a sense, be reflections to you, mirrors to you, that will put you in touch with these different aspects of your consciousness, both on the physical personality level and on the soul blueprint level and on the oversoul level and on your connection to source or whatever level you wish to look at it from. These charts, in a sense, are, shall we say, like unto mandalas in a way. They are like unto spells in a way. They are like unto arrangements or patterns or matrices of energy in a way that represent an interface between different levels of you as a person on earth and different levels on which you exist in other realms as well, other dimensions, physical and non-physical. So use them in that way. And let your imagination be your guide. This is why they have been created for you as a tool, why they have been designed for you as a tool. Anytime you find yourself feeling a little bit lost, feeling a little bit off your so-called path, use these tools. They're very strong tools. And when you allow yourself to experience them, from that moment of pause, from that moment of neutrality, in that state of being, they will be very strong and effective tools to illuminate in your imagination certain aspects that you need to look at that will be the things you need to process, the things you need to integrate to move even farther forward on your journey of self-integration, of soul growth. Does this make sense to you? All right. Now, one moment, and take another deep breath, and let it out, and take another deep breath, and let it out. So also then understand that oxygenation of the system is also key, and when you are in that meditative state, the deep rhythmic breathing that is often referred to as yogic breathing is also another way to energize and amplify the vibrational energy within yourself, to be more sensitized, to be more attuned to these charts, so that when you contemplate them in that state, with the meditational, relaxed, neutral state, with the deep oxygenation of the system, that in that state you will actually glean more from those charts. Your imagination will open up to more information from those mirrors, from those reflections, from those tools. Anything you can do to balance out your body consciousness, clarify, detoxify your body consciousness, will allow you to become more highly attuned and more highly receptive to any information that these tools can help inspire within your imagination. So it is very important, along with any tools that we share with you, that you allow yourself to become the best receiver you possibly can, because it's all about ability to absorb and integrate this information, not just listen to it and let it spin in orbit around your head. Not just allow yourself to be inundated with information, but to truly absorb it. And absorption on all levels is based on the ability to remove toxins, whether they be literal physical toxins or pollutants in your body, or whether they be the idea of toxic beliefs that don't allow you to believe in something you say you prefer to believe in. So the more you can clarify what your beliefs and definitions are, what your motivations are, And the more you can actually detoxify your bodies and your cellular structures, putting into them the oxygen, putting into them the water, putting into them the proper nutrients in a natural way, the more you become highly receptive to all these levels of information that are surrounding you constantly, information constantly coming to you from us, from your guides, from other spirits, from other dimensions, from cross currents in other lives, other experiences you are having right now. Make yourselves more highly receptive by clarifying yourself as best as you can on all levels. On all levels. That would be our strongest suggestion for the most efficacious use of the information we are downloading in this transmission. Because understand that there is much, much more information coming to you all than just what you are hearing coming out of the body sitting in front of you. There is energy patterns, all sorts of things coming to you. Sometimes you recognize this by suddenly finding an increase in synchronicity in your daily lives, because you are using the information in a way that you are not really immediately consciously aware of. Sometimes it will be that your dreams will become far more lucid and far more vivid. Sometimes it will simply be that you find yourself more capable of taking that pause and reflecting on exactly what is going on and what you are doing, and be more transparently aware of yourself. It may manifest in any number of ways, all this extra information that you may not at this point be consciously aware of, but it's there nevertheless, and you can become far more attuned to it with all the clarifying ideas we have just mentioned, both in terms of energy and psychology and emotionality and beliefs and motivation, but also in terms of body as well. Because remember, there really is no difference. And the idea really is not that your spirit is in your body is in your spirit in that sense. It's contained within it, supported by it. It's within the soul, within the oversoul. And the idea of leaving your body is not so much leaving your body as it is simply expanding your consciousness beyond that focus. So the body in that sense is really like unto a tube, a spyglass that you are looking through to experience the idea called physical reality. But when you back up in that sense, when you remove your eye from the eyepiece, you recognize that you're holding that telescope in your hand and that there is still a bigger reality in which the telescope exists. And that what you thought was the only reality that you saw through the eyeglass is now just a piece of a bigger reality that you are also contained within. And then when you drop that looking glass, you will recognize that you are also in a bigger reality, and another reality, and another reality. And as we have said several times, the whole idea of evolution, the whole idea really of spiritual growth, fundamentally, from the perspective that you are coming from, is really the process of actually awakening to the fact that you are the reality you previously thought you existed in. You actually are physical reality. You don't really exist in it. You actually are it. It's an experience in your consciousness. That's all it is. It isn't empirically real. It isn't empirically solid. And even the experience of physical reality itself contains clues that lets you know how ephemeral it is. Your own scientists, your own quantum physicists know how unsolid solid reality is. And they even balk at calling atoms solid particles, because in reality, they're not. They're just ideas. Wave forms, they may say, but waveform is really just an idea. But your reality is made up of ideas. The ideas you have of yourselves, the ideas you have of others, the ideas you have of reality. It's just ideas. That's all it is. But what a fantastic idea it has been. And now it's going to be a different idea. Just as fantastic, but different. And that's what you're creating now, really, is a new idea of yourself, and therefore a new idea of what reality experience is all about. Does that make sense to you all? What is the time frame remaining for this part of the transmission? All right. Within this remaining time frame for this segment, are there now more questions or discussions with regard to the new diagram, any aspect of it, and anything we have said that requires clarification or further discussion? All right. Then abide by whatever procedure you have agreed to.
Good morning, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
Very frustrating issue going on.
A very frustrating issue. All right. Speak up and be bold so that all may hear what you have to share.
I felt driven since the age of 12.
Oh, more driving. All right.
Surrendered 11 years ago.
Yes.
Surrender almost daily.
Yes.
Through meditation.
Yes.
However, it feels so frustrating because every time I feel closer to the source,
Yes.
it moves further away.
Absolutely.
Every time.
Absolutely. How else are you going to grow?
That's what I'm coming to. Every time I feel I've learned something,
Yes.
I immediately recognize that I've got so much more to learn.
Yes.
The more knowingness I have,
Yes.
the more I feel ignorant.
Yes.
And it is exactly, as an analogy, a magnet game.
Yes.
The satisfaction of knowingness, the satisfaction of enlightenment
Yes.
lasts for such a small moment. And to be honest with you, Bashar, I'm very jealous.
Oh, all right.
I want to have the answers you have.
But you do.
I want the knowingness.
do.
I want the knowingness. I want
You
to
do.
live in knowingness
You
every
do.
moment. I don't.
Nothing is stopping you but your idea about yourself. And the way you think you're going about it or you think you need to go about it. Nothing is stopping you from having the same access to all the same information, the same degree of ideas of knowingness. But I want to let you in on a very little secret. All the knowingness that you ascribe to us, from our point of view, is barely anything. Most of our knowingness comes from the fact that we know we don't know so very much more.
Exactly.
Therefore, in the idea that you've already described, you have in fact achieved the same kind of knowingness that we have.
But what is the point of playing a game if no one wins? You said earlier on...
What is the point of playing the game if no one wins?
Yes.
Why is it not winning enough to just play the game? Why isn't that a win that you are even allowed to play the game? That you even exist to be able to have the experience? Why isn't that enough of a win? Why haven't you already won, in other words?
I want to feel winning to the point where the light does not keep moving further and further away.
But that will never happen.
Why?
Because it's infinite. How can you have an end to it when it's infinite? There is no end to the game. If you actually want the game to end, the way you experience the idea of the possibility that there's an end to the game is by doing exactly what you have done. In other words, you've chosen to be a part of a physical reality where you could actually forget that the game is infinite. And thus you have made it seem as if the game could possibly have an end. But now, in playing that game, you have reversed the idea and allowed yourself to begin to remember that the game actually doesn't end. And so the only way for you to once again feel that it could end, that there might be an ending that you would arrive at, thus having won, is to once again forget that there's no such thing as an end. But you don't want to forget that now. You have got yourself completely in the center of the game of paradox. Which game do you really want to play? The one that goes on forever and is always eternally delightful and full of surprises without end? Or the one where you have forgotten and are in the darkness again playing that game. Which do you prefer?
The first, of course.
Well then,
But it leads me to the next
yes.
challenge.
Which is?
In context of what you just explained,
Yes.
I can never really assert who I am.
Why not?
Because I'm always changing.
Yes, that's who you are. The idea of who you are is just becoming bigger, that's all. It's no longer defined in the limited way it used to be. And that's why you're uncertain of exactly right now who you are. But you'll get it. You'll understand that you're bigger, and that the idea that you're always changing is in fact who you are. You are change itself. It's one of the laws of existence. You see, the whole idea, if you wish me to put it in euphemistic terms of something that is quote unquote achievable as a win, is the recognition that ultimately what you actually are is all that is. Now, the paradox is that when you fully realize you are all that is, it will simultaneously feel like you are moving at infinite speed forever and standing perfectly still. So in that sense, you can find that there is the possibility of creating what you would call a sense of accomplishment, but that doesn't actually mean that anything is really ended, because there's always something beyond that. Your curiosity will never die. And even if you create for yourself the experience of having won the game, arrived at the end, caught up to the light, you will then, at that moment of triumph, want something more, and there it will be. Because you are all that is, and what you say goes. So it's just a matter of what level of it you want to be aware of for whatever game is more exciting for you to play. For a while, it was exciting to think you could actually catch up to the light and be a winner. Now you're in that transitional stage where you understand that what you really want to do is understand you're already a winner just because you're playing a game that goes on forever. And oh, how exciting that is, because the fun will never end. So you're just right now kind of caught between the two ideas. And the fact that you now perceive that everything always changes is exactly the biggest clue that you need to understand who you actually are. You are change itself. All of you, all of us, we are change itself. Because that's the act of creation. And if you want to catch up to the light, recognize that you are the light. And it's always with you. That's when you catch up to it, but simultaneously will recognize you can also chase it forever. Remember, in this day and age on your planet, in this process you're going through, the realization that you're ultimately really having is it's no longer this or that, it's this and that. Both are true. What appear to be absolute opposites are both true as anything. That all ideas are true, all perspectives are true, all reality experiences are true because they're all a part of all that is. Experience it however you wish. Does that make sense to you?
It does, thank you.
Is this helping at all?
Very much. Small question.
Small question, all right.
Do animals know this better than we do?
They don't allow themselves to get so much in their way, yes. They instinctively understand this a little bit more clearly than most humans do.
Thank you.
Does that help you?
Very much, thank you.
One moment. One moment. Don't go anywhere. What animal do you identify with most strongly if you do?
Dogs.
Why?
They understand us. They have a capacity to love unconditionally.
I see. And
They're
you
very
think that that's a
heightened
good
beings.
lesson to learn, yes?
Of course.
All right. Then why not love the game the way it is, unconditionally? Unconditionally. Because true unconditionality does not mean I love it unconditionally except for this one condition.
In other words, I have more surrendering to do.
You have less conditioning to do, which might be the same thing. Yes. So take a cue from the dog so you will make sure you're not barking up the wrong tree.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
Thank you. Okay, my question is, you talk about doing as...
Yes. I do, don't I?
Yes, you do. And it made me wonder, as an inspiration, like maybe as a model where we're going to, what do you consider doing in your reality? What I understand is a note like you hang out in your scout craft.
Hang out.
Yeah, I mean...
Like I am right now.
Yeah.
All right.
Do you spend a lot of time, in our terms, just hanging out in your scout craft and...
Well, I suppose you could say in one context, obviously, every time there is what you perceive to be a transmission of this nature, I am in repose in my scout craft.
And what were you doing just before that?
I was calibrating the electromagnetic field of your planet.
Did you spend very long at that?
Long is relative.
Okay.
In your terms, no.
Okay. You're not going to tell me much more about what you're doing, I guess.
Well, if you ask, I will.
Okay. Did you eat anything today?
No, we don't eat anymore.
Okay.
We have evolved beyond the idea of requiring solid sustenance. We now derive directly from electromagnetic energy within what you call the space-time continuum itself. We eat space-time.
But nevertheless, what I get is if you are in your scout craft
Yes.
in what appears to me to be like long linear time,
Yes.
that you're just basically a communicator and interactor with different reality frames.
That's my job.
Okay. So
I am, in that sense, a liaison, a go-between, a connector, one who makes first contact with other civilizations. I'm also a pilot, obviously, because I have a craft. And I do many other things in terms of expressions of art and other forms of creativity. But I am primarily, in your terms, a liaison for first contact.
I would get what I'm getting is for you to explain to us in linear terms what you do wouldn't totally make sense. Is that true? For instance, for you to suddenly be a creator of art,
Yes.
do you like show up on your planet to do it, or
I can.
have you?
Yes, many times.
What did you make?
I have made a large sphere that contains many segments, each of which represents in real time the changing fluctuations of the electromagnetic fields and the collective consciousness of every single world I am having first contact with simultaneously, which at present count is about 27.
Okay.
And by creating that piece of art, others can actually see a visual representation of the changes in fluctuation in energy between the different worlds as I am communicating with them and how they change based on those communications. They can also sense, by deriving directly telepathically from it, how those communications change our world as well. So in that sense, it's a functional piece of art.
Yeah. Well, did you build it with just intention, or with your hands, or with machinery?
I built it with a seed and intention and energy fields. In other words, on our planet we have a particular substance that to you would appear to be a crystalline-like substance that is similar to the idea of non-differentiated cells. So in that sense, we can impose upon it a certain intention that will allow the seed to grow into the piece of art, using an energy field as its template. By growing on this energy field, which is interdimensional in nature, the piece of art, similar to our spacecraft hulls, can actually be paper thin. But they are relatively undamageable because they grow in the dimensional shape in the shape of the dimension we have created, and thus can take no other shape. Nothing can push them out of shape, because to push them out of shape would, in a sense, be like trying to push an entire dimension out of shape. So they take their shape from the template dimension we create through our intention. It draws upon what you would recognize euphemistically as zero-point energy in order to do this, from the energy that exists in the vacuum fluctuations within space and time. Is this making any sense to you in your language?
Yes, it is. Yeah, it also reminded me of like the stem cell research we're doing here.
Yes.
So we're getting towards that state.
That is an analogy for this concept. Mm-hmm. Because these are not what you would call, in that sense, organic cells, but they have a similar non-differentiation capacity. They can be made into whatever we wish them to be made into.
Okay. The other thing I want to is go over the creation reality loop that you mentioned before.
Yes, the circuit, yes.
The circuit. We were discussing it last night at some length, and...
At some length? What length? 3 feet?
Yes.
Oh, all right.
And one of the things that came up was the idea that all those ideas of going from the personality construct to source, or all that is, and going back from, all
Yes.
those 4 things could be collapsed into any one act
Yes.
contains all those things.
Yes.
And I'd asked you yesterday to give an example. So may I give an example of what I thought?
Please.
Well, like, say the idea is a person believes that everyone should marry a woman, a man should marry a woman, that's the only source of marriage. And so a piece of experience of his would be he's getting married to a woman, that's his belief, he has the emotion of being happy about it,
Yes.
and then the action is actually doing it.
Yes.
And then that contains all those elements.
Yes.
And then using time,
Yes.
say later, he sees like 2 men walking hand in hand, and suddenly his belief is challenged.
Yes.
And he, now his belief goes a little bit unbalanced, and he feels like this negative energy, this negative emotion, because he doesn't believe that should happen.
All right.
And
So he is reacting based on his definitions.
right.
All right.
And so that's just another piece of another part of the feedback loop. I
Yes.
guess I was just, it makes sense to me, and it didn't at first. So,
Oh, all right. Thank you for providing an example that clarified it for you.
okay.
Does that help?
Very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Bashar. How's your day going?
Perfect. And yours?
Not too bad myself.
Oh, all right.
I have a question for you that I think your response, let's say you can give a 5-second response to this question.
Oh, all right.
You mentioned yesterday.
Shall I pull out my stopwatch?
Please. You mentioned yesterday that at the height of your communication with our civilization, the emotional state that you were exhibiting
Yes.
was a mere 5%
Yes.
of your ordinary day-to-day reaction.
The energy level.
The energy level.
Yes.
In a 5-second response to this audience, can you demonstrate by either word or body movement or vibration what your normal day-to-day response is on your planet?
No. It would harm the channel's body.
Okay?
The vessel would not be able to handle it. You follow me?
Yes, I do. Okay?
However, I will be happy to show you if you will meet us in dream time. Because
Okay.
there the limitations do not exist.
You're on
Thank you.
tonight. Let's link tonight. We'll do it there.
All right.
I do have a backup question, just in
A
case.
backup question.
Just in case.
All right.
Just in case I was denied this one.
Well, you are denied nothing, but
I understand. I understand.
go ahead.
On page 3 of the printout that you've provided for us, there's a picture of 2 triangles.
Yes.
Triangle 1, the top triangle, demonstrates balance and harmony.
Yes.
with beliefs, emotions, and behavior
Yes.
being in sync.
Yes.
Triangle 2 represents a triangle of imbalance and chaos.
Yes.
Can you give us real-life examples of how beliefs, emotions, and thoughts are imbalanced either collectively or individually, like an unbalanced belief? What I'm looking at, let's just look at an unbalanced belief. Let's look at that part of the triangle.
All right.
I'm assuming that the midpoint of that leg represents a balanced
Well,
belief.
generally, yes. Of course, recognize there are many ways to have represented this, and this is a simplistic version for the purpose of illustration.
Okay. Well, I guess just explain the triangle. Just explain the unbalanced triangle.
Well, the idea would be that if you have a definition that you hold to be true, that somehow your existence is unworthy, then that would represent the idea of being out of alignment or out of balance with your true self. Therefore, by having an unbalanced definition, that will have a tendency to throw everything else out of balance and into chaos as well, because behavior comes from emotion and emotion comes from belief.
Okay, so is that implying that the imbalanced triangle must start with an unbalanced belief?
As far as the personality construct is concerned, generally, yes. It doesn't always have to work that way, but generally it will. Now, the reason it doesn't always work that way is that because in what you call the beginning of the personality construct in time, in other words, when you are a baby, obviously you don't necessarily come in with absolute beliefs and definitions. However, you are then using the idea more of behavior and emotion to sort of feed into your cache of believability, to feed into your depository. And these beliefs are coming telepathically from, most likely, your parents at that point. And so as they feed you food, they also feed you beliefs. And you take on and inherit a lot of their beliefs. And they feed you through behavior in that sense and telepathically, and go down through the emotionality and down into your depository in the personality construct and help you build a personality construct out of those beliefs. Then eventually, somewhere between the ages of 3 and 7 on your planet, the belief system then becomes so crystallized that the belief system then takes over from the parents and allows the personality of the child to develop from that point forward, from the beliefs through the emotions to the behavior. So it doesn't start that way, but at a very young age, it soon becomes generally locked into that methodology. Does that help?
That helps very much.
And that's why many times when a person on your planet sometimes finds difficulty in getting in touch with a belief or changing a belief, sometimes it is helpful for them to actually go back to that childlike state where they can truly unlock from it. In a sense, go back to a time before the belief itself was crystallized. So they can, in a sense, melt it down and recrystallize it in a form that works for them now in their new personality construct. Make sense?
It does. So a newborn up to age 3 is operating more in the emotional leg of the triangle.
And behaviorally. That's why a baby is all about behavior. And that's what they pick up on, is behavior. Babies are extremely sensitive to body language, because that is the first level of where telepathy is unconsciously expressed in a human, is through the behavior, through the body language. What you're actually saying, what you're actually believing, what you're actually transmitting to someone, you can see it in the body language, and most of you still have that capability if you really pay attention to it. You can tell when someone is, shall we say, saying one thing, but meaning another, because of their body language. You can pick up on that. In fact, even when you get good enough driving your automobiles, you begin to sense the body language of other cars, and you know exactly when a driver is about to cut you off. You could see the body language translating into the slightest motion of the car, and you knew exactly what they were going to do. So you all still possess that talent But that is the primary way that a baby has of absorbing information, is through the telepathic contact and then through behavior, through body language. Then it starts filtering down in the idea of the emotional energy, and it starts resonating on that level, and that resonance starts building, starts using the fluid part of the personality construct, the part that's still fluid, the believability part, and it starts crystallizing patterns into that fluid, which then somewhere, as I said, generally on average between ages 3 and 7 in your reality, becomes crystallized enough to actually start generating its own sense of cyclic behavior, its own sense of emotional pattern. And that starts reinforcing the idea of that personality up until the point, generally speaking, when you then psychically key into high psychic sensitivity on your own, which you call puberty. And that's why teenagers suddenly rebel. Suddenly all bets are off. Wait a minute. This personality that I've been fed isn't necessarily who I am in my soul. They start to actually make those connections. They have developed the personality to the point where it now suddenly recognizes it has reached a limit. And that limit now requires that it take a leap of faith, and that leap is that they have to really discover who they are. And that means they have to dive back into the soul blueprint, back to source, and reinvent themselves in the way that is now germane. Now that they have gone beyond survival mode personality level, they now have to go into creative mode personality level to reinvent themselves, regenerate themselves, and be who it is they really are with respect to the themes in the soul blueprint they actually decided to experience in this life. Not that some of them haven't begun to play out before puberty, but now they can really take a handle on their own lives and after puberty reinvent themselves as adults. Now, of course, because of the way Earth, in a sense, has played itself out in some of the limitation games, you don't always give the teenagers the opportunity to really truly reinvent themselves. Instead, very often you actually prevent them from doing so by institutionalizing them in formats that do not allow them much creative thought. And that's why you get the idea expressed as rebellion.
I had an extremely rough time period.
Yes.
In that junior high age, that was horrible.
Yes.
And is there...
That's because you were not really given all the tools necessary to do the natural thing that needed to be done at that point, which was to truly reinvent yourself. So you did it the best way you could. And many of you are actually still doing it. What actually, and please do not take this the wrong way, it's not a judgment, and don't be down on yourselves and be depressed, please.
All right.
Many of you are still going through a process of reinvention that actually probably more often than not would normally naturally only take about a year. Nevertheless, you're doing fine.
I should have bought the manual.
This now is the manual.
Very good.
You are co-creating it with us, and that's why we are so excited to be writing this manual together with you. Because now you're really reading it, now you're really applying it, and now you really actually are becoming adults. And it's probably taken so long to get here that you're probably famished by now. So we would recommend that you might want to refresh yourselves, and after your lunch break, we will resume this connection with some more ideas to help lock these ideas in and propel you on your way. Enjoy your refreshment. We will resume contact momentarily.
Thank you, Bashar.